It's been a weird week for one Chris Chan, Christ Chan, Christine Weston Chandler, whatever you want to call Chris at this point, but it's not been, interesting. I'll just come right out and say it, there's very few things right now surrounding Chris that could be considered noteworthy. But like with most locales, you can find a lot of comedy in the little things that they do. And Chris has gone live a few times this month, but in these streams, he's mostly just sitting there doing art, but then as he does in every stream, he starts to read the super chats, and after 5-10 minutes starts getting completely flustered. And then later on, I want to go check out Chris's Twitter, because he has been talking about how the ponies are causing World War III and all that again. I mean, just so much lunacy with Chris happens on a daily basis, and it's funny that at this point it's considered that this is just, run-of-the-mill stuff with this guy. Talking about being Jesus Christ and thinking that some, pony show is so significant that it's gonna cause a world war is something that should be, should be looked at with a huge lens. To any outsider looking in, you would think this is the most insane thing you've ever heard anyone say. But to all of us who know Chris's story, we know that it's just another Wednesday. And so, with all that being said, let's get right into this, because there are a few nuggets of gold in these streams, and I've tried to edit them out and put them all here for you guys to have a good chuckle at. And we start here with this stream from about 2 weeks ago, where Chris went live to do a media share stream, where people would be able to share media with him after they donated and he could react to it live on stream. But for some odd reason, he showed up to this live stream completely unkempt, sweating, his hair all over the place as you're seeing on stream, and people in the chat noticed this. So we'll start here, look at the few highlights there are, and I'll give you guys my opinions on it. So let's get into it.
Anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah, anyway, so yeah, I was there, so that's where I was for 2 of the months. No names to be mentioned, but essentially I went with the flow. I proved myself mentally and everything. Although I will, that place just, the only one real bad thing I will mention, they strap you to a chair if you're really that bad. If you really were possessed or really outright just do anything bad, they will do that, which I have not done anything of the sort. I was blessed to not have to suffer any of that. But just an empathy, can you imagine just having your wrists restrained, having your legs restrained, having your chest restrained? That's no good. That's no good. That's not even a good thing to have in any facility of the sort whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but the way he worded that absolutely makes you think that he felt the wrath of that chair. He was 100% on the other side of those restraints, and it's just something that is always going to affect Chris. Being held down is not something that he can tolerate. He always tells the story about back at the school when he was a kid, and they all held him down because they didn't know how to treat an autistic person like him, and he freaked out about it. And it's just the way he describes it there, the sheer horror in his eyes. You know that he had to be on the other side of that at one point, but does not want people to know that, because then they'll think he's crazy. Obviously some speculation there on my part, and there will be a lot more of that in just a minute here, but it's something worth pointing out. Now, the next thing Chris is about to say, though, this caught me off guard, because someone asks him about the Ian Brandon Anderson name, and out of nowhere he decides, you know what, no, that's Barb's fucking fault. Barb's the reason they called me that, because of that stupid license plate.
Nope. You know what? The one that is the Ian, that would be Barbara Ann Weston Chandler, because she had the IBA Weston license plate. That's where that stupid thing came from. There is no Ian, there never ever was. The only one that came about is just because all of you made that up. Oh, and thank you very much. Thank you very much. But aside from that, that one little reaction there, keeping it calm, keeping it cool. Everybody is blessed. Along with that, Matthew, John, consciousness, I can't remember them all at the same time. I'm only focused on what I need to know in the moment. But it's you go from one incarnation to another. You're not gonna remember every single detail as you were in your past incarnation.
So despite being Jesus Christ himself, the all-knowing Lord and Savior, He only knows two books in the Bible. You know, it's just, there's so much going on in that godly brain of his. How can you ever expect him to know that information? But it's pretty funny when you see later what information Chris does know. Now, he also brought up there again that thing about Barb, but it was more like kind of aimed at the trolls because he says they took it and ran with it. But you can tell there's a little bit of spite there for Barbara even going out of her way to get that license plate, because in his mind it gave the trolls the ammo. But there's one other thing I wanted to bring up, and it's a lot of speculation here. I'm not accusing Chris of anything, it's just something that I feel like we should point out and talk about, because a lot of you guys have written comments, and I've seen a lot of people say all around the internet that Chris has seemed like kind of weird in some of these clips, like he seems like he could be on something. Now, I don't know if he is or not, but I'll show you guys two little clips here that made me think, well, it could be something. This first one here is just Chris talking a mile a minute as he gets this burst of energy out of nowhere. And the second one is Chris just feverishly rubbing his thighs with his hands. I mean, I just kind of zoomed in on the clip of him staring like crazy into the back of his hand. I don't know. You guys be the judge of it and let me know down in the comments. But I'm going to show these clips now.
So anyway, just Rarity might have misinterpreted me in within the moment. Just obviously that was from their perspective, and they had misunderstanding. They didn't know I had a drawing to offer them, so they might just had the wrong impression about me at the moment. But hey, I mean, what do you expect? You don't know the area. You don't know. They didn't know I was autistic at that point, and they might have been in there had their own. They got their own mental problems. I mean, who doesn't have a mental problem these days? I mean, what's normal these days? Period. I mean, who's a normal individual? Nobody is neurotypical. Oh yeah, I have watched the entirety of Sonic Prime. Really good. You could be donating and putting the link into the tip jar so they can watch at least a few seconds of that. That's the point of this media share. And I am not responding to that whatsoever. I'm not even looking at it. Just because you're the fake.
I don't know, man. I've watched it back a few times, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just Chris's personality, and it damn well could be. But I don't know, the random bursts of energy, the slurring of his words, it was just never noticeable to me in the past, and in this stream more than any, I was like, well, there could be something there. But again, I'll toss that one to you guys, because maybe I'm just out of line on that. Who knows, though. I added in a clip at the end there, though, of Chris getting a super chat from Liquid Chris, and Chris recognized who it was immediately, and shut that shit right down. I was like, nope. Not even responding to that one. You're the imposter. So Chris knows that there's another Liquid Chris out there, and again, you'll hear him mention in a little bit here soon, and I'm not sure if Chris thinks they're the same person or not, that being the new Liquid Chris and the original Liquid Chris. But again, this was only one stream from 2 weeks ago, and Chris did another one about 4 days ago, and in this one there was a few more laughable things he said, and without any further ado, let's just jump right into that stream now.
Annoying. I'm not pretending to be a woman. My panties are clean. And Liquid Chris is not a doctor. In fact, he's just trapped in his own stupor and mentality and arrogance and everything bad. So, I feel sorry for him. He's disappointing. Oh. Okay, well, there are good cults, and there are bad cults, and the bad cults are the ones that do the sacrifices, the blood, and all that. The good cults actually promote goodness, light, power, and righteousness. In fact, religions, literally, the good ones, they start out as cult followings, based on the scriptures, based on the predictions, based on the prophecies. So, you meditate on that.
So someone asked Chris about the fact that Liquid Chris is now a doctor, and if you don't know anything about Liquid Chris's future after he got done trolling Chris, yeah, he's a doctor who researches cancer. Now, Chris apparently does not believe any of this. I assume in his mind all the trolls are absolute failures, because if they're not, then it proves him wrong all those years ago, despite him coming out now and admitting that he was wrong about almost everything years ago and still being wrong about stuff today. But it would just prove that, the trolls actually won and they got a better life than Chris, and that's just a reality he can't comprehend. I mean, in another one of these super chats someone sent later on in the call, I don't have it recorded, but when someone asks about Clyde Cash, Chris simply replies, "He dead." Like, Clyde's gone. Clyde's off the face of the earth, presumably with Blue Spike. And you know, that Liquid Chris, well, he's just a slanderous liar, not helping out a soul, just dicking around with White Bowser and Cyrax in Chris's mind. Chris then went into talking about cults and how there are good cults and bad cults. Now, I don't know about that. I feel like if anything's just like identified as a cult, it's probably not something you want to be a part of. I mean, you know, you want to be considered a group, you know, just a group of like-minded people, not a cult.
Mike Jones? I don't consciously know who he is. I have not seen any pictures of him. But yeah, so you're Jewish, you think you are Jesus, but you're not. You have the appreciation of me within you. You have a piece of my energy. You could potentially be you could be a really good disciple. Hang on. I'm trying to get my train of thought here. I don't want to lose a beat on that. But yeah, essentially, if you really are, then you would connect with the one alpha omega point of all existence. But essentially, as far as you can go in your deepest meditation, you wouldn't go even beyond the core and matrix of this very universe. Now, essentially, if you go beyond the matrix of the core of this universe into the core and matrix of the timeline, of this very timeline, then you'd essentially be on God level, but only the ones that are higher up in the chain and higher up able, which there are very, very, very few. So, I'm just trying to get my fingers in the camera, there we go. That are, I mean, you wouldn't even be able to make it to even the alpha omega point of all existence in meditation. You wouldn't have that connection. And essentially, I could tell just from intuition and everything, you don't even meditate that much. You were trying to make a joke on me by saying the statement you said in the paid statement earlier. Alright, anyway, so
Somebody sends Chris a super chat saying that they think they may be God too, and Chris just, you can tell, he lets out a hearty stress sigh and then just completely shuts that shit down. Like, no, you're not. You would know, and actually I would know, and I know that you're not. You don't even fucking meditate. Like, Chris was so to the point, like, listen, you wouldn't even be able to get to the alpha omega plane, and there's like so much more beyond that Chris had to do that this person could never do. Now, he may be all-knowing, despite being really, like, confused about stuff all the time, but if there's one thing he knows, it's that this particular person, doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of being considered the Lord and Savior. But Chris, no, you don't even gotta explain it, you just gotta accept that. And that just goes back to Chris's self-importance he puts on himself. He has to be the end-all be-all. He has to be what the world revolves around, because now that when he drew the Solitude comics, who was the main character? Well, of course he would think it would be Solitude, but no, it was Chris himself, because all everyone cares about is Chris's story, and what's going on with Chris. I mean, the town itself is called Quickville, for fuck's sake. Another thing I pointed out a long time ago is that there's this video that people somehow got, well, I guess Chris posted it online back in the day, from Chris's old Game Boy camera, where he took a bunch of pictures of different little Lego figures he had lying around his room, and he was pretending like they were all in a Mario Kart race. Mario, Peach, Luigi, Bob and Barb Chandler, you know, all the classic characters from the Mushroom Kingdom. And then at the very end, by the way, Cole Smithy too, he was in there because Cole wasn't on the outs yet with the family at this point. This had to be back in the 90s. So Chris then, he shows all these characters, right? And then he puts on the screen at the end, and their leader, Christian C. Because of course Chris is the leader. Chris is the big fucking kahuna. In every aspect, he has to be the big shot. And this is just another form of that. But now, he's the biggest shot there can be. He's the biggest big shot. He's God himself. And now nobody can question him. Because, again, he probably just sat there in jail, reading the Bible because it was all he had to do, and it made him realize, wow, the main character in this book is God. Just like the main character in Sonic is Sonic, another character who he loves and blatantly ripped off. You know who else is another main character? Pikachu, another one he blatantly ripped off. So, Sonic, Pikachu, Jesus Christ himself, all of these entities have been ripped off in one way or another by Chris Chan, and that's just a funny fact of life. And so, with all that being said, you want to know Chris's prediction for the WrestleMania main event?
Cody and Roman WrestleMania. My intuition says Roman. But yeah, obviously, yeah, I don't really do bets and wagers. That's another detail. So my power's not meant to be used for any bet type of thing. So that's why, obviously, in preliminary details and whatnot, I said the opposite when it came to that Super Bowl question the previous time. So yeah, don't abuse me just for monetary gain and whatnot.
So you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Roman Reigns is retaining the belt again this year at WrestleMania. Gonna be, what, his 5th year as champion now? Maybe 4th? But, I mean, we all know, if you know wrestling, which I bet you there's probably a lot of people here who are like, shut up about the wrestling shit. But it's important to mention, because Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, the two guys fighting, they fought last year and Roman won. The story is that this year, Cody's going to avenge his loss, win it all, because it's all fake, ladies and gentlemen. You know, it's a big spoiler alert if you don't know the pro wrestling's fake. But if you were to put your money on anyone, it would probably be Cody. However, even if Cody does win, it doesn't prove anything, because just like the Super Bowl, Chris lied to the people. Chris even said, you know, just because that one team didn't win the Super Bowl, that was a ploy from Chris to test people's trust or whatever the fuck he said. Basically what he said is, hey, I just costed you guys thousands because I told you to bet on the 49ers. So, like Chris said, don't use him for betting advice, ladies and gentlemen. Not because it's selfish, but because he doesn't know shit about sports or, like, WWE. And it was at this point that I was making this video that I was given a notification that the homie Travis Bartholomew had gone live. Now, I know that absolutely every single one of you do not know who this guy is, but he's just a character I found one day while scrolling through YouTube shorts, and the first thing I clicked on, like, I had to stop making this Chris video to go see what this guy was doing, and within seconds it became abundantly clear that he did not like what was on his TV at the moment, and so he threatened to shoot it.
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Bro, I'm about to shoot the fucking TV. Like.
But back to Chris Chan.
Oh. Well, tell you what. How does it feel to have a short one? Or to be in length long? Or one where it's so long, you just doubt yourself, period. Boom!
Somebody asked Chris how it feels to have a duck that is bent 35 degrees, and Chris responds pretty wittingly with, well, it's better than having a small one like you or something like that. But then, of course, as Chris does, just immediately ruins it by going, you know, or a really big one. Like, what? Why'd you add that in? Like, you had him. You had the guy hook, line, and sinker, and you just blew it.
You know what? At the present time, I'm just doing streaming as a side hobby and a side hobby and project. But at least to give you all the good content as well, we got other content details going on along the way, in which I'm grateful for the blessing and opportunity to be able to do this and give you all an update from time to time, give you all this to watch, this simple pleasure and everything. So count the blessings. That streaming is not my main thing. I got all the other things going on. Y'all know it. Y'all know it. So, don't be questioning me.
Don't you be questioning yourselves either. How about Ricky? I want to be in the show.
Now, Lucy, you cannot be in the show too much.
Well,
Oh, that's where that is. Oh, that's okay. I'll use this one. I'll just put that right there because that's an extra piece. None. 0 times.
It's hilarious to hear Chris say that, he does all the other stuff for a living. Streaming, that's not his job. This is just a side hustle for him. I assume he's talking about the art when he says that, but then again, he could just be talking about his godly duties, because he brings that up all the time, that he's here, there, and everywhere saving the universe and all that. So at the end of the day, it's probably hard for these praetor people to pry him out of his room to do some art or get on stream, because in his mind, he's just sitting there going through his phone, watching YouTube videos and meditating and helping the universe while doing it. Chris, he'll do that to the end of time. He thinks that just by sitting around, he has a reason now to claim that he's really doing something. It's just another way for him to try to combat ever having to get an actual job or doing anything legitimate in his life. It's something that he can say he's too busy with so that he doesn't have time for any of that other stuff. But really, he's just sitting there and just in his own little world, enjoying whatever pony video he's watching at the time. In the next series of clips, Chris seems to go back to his roots a little bit, singing the song with I think it was the one that was like, I'm the little boy with glasses, like that. If you know anything about Chris's lore, you know exactly which one I'm talking about. It's either that song or another one, but either way, they sound pretty similar. But it's not only that, people have now figured out how to get the media to work, so Chris is just getting a bunch of blasts from the past with old clips of his, and the way he reacts to a few of these is pretty goddamn funny.
Ba-dum, bum, bum. I asked to be or not to be a rogue or a peasant slave is what you see. A child who loves their mother's knee. And so I asked to be or not to be.
My name is not Ian Brandon something!
That is correct.
I am Christian Weston
Chandler. Yes, as that name was way back when. That is correct. You're gonna go to your houses and tuck down your internet.
Hello. You know the word gay tends to be thrown around.
And that was back from when I was homophobic, which that is no longer the case since I came out, realized myself, it is okay to be gay, it is okay to be lesbian, it is okay to be bisexual, polyamorous, and whatnot, because you're identifying as yourself. LGBTQ, even queer is good.
Yeah, you can tell that Chris absolutely hates being reminded about those specific things from his past. He likes singing the silly songs that he used to sing, but being reminded of what he said about the gays and all that, it's just not up his alley. But there were other funny moments that I left on the cutting room floor because, for the most part, Chris's little humorous antics, they're all things we've seen before. It's not like it's anything new, but it is kind of interesting to see him take a trip down memory lane and have to watch all of his old clips. I know he's done it a few times before, but his answers seemingly always differ. So until the end of time, it'll be funny seeing Chris try to get around all the crazy shit he said years ago. But still, it's not like he's not still saying crazy shit now. He's probably saying even crazier shit, and there's no better indicator for that than this Twitter post right here. Now, not the one we're actually looking at, what Chris replied to this with, I should say. So this pony person, right? This person is a person who, again, likes ponies. I feel like there's no other way for me to explain that. And they asked, was Tell Your Tale successful? Today we have that and more in our pony community soapbox, where anyone can vent their opinions for all to read. Go check it out. So I guess this person was talking about an event called Tell Your Tale, and as they said, this was a place where you could go and basically just vent all your opinions about what's going on in that community. Now Chris took this to a completely different route. I imagine a lot of these people are like, I really don't like the fact that this happened in the storyline, or I really don't like the fact that it looks like this is where it's going in the show. But Chris has to take it to a much higher level than I don't think any of these pony people have ever experienced. Chris responds with, massive big cob formation of MLP G5 instigating World War III, hashtag Russia versus Ukraine. I have literally said before, and this confirms it, no allegedly, Hasbro did. So, if not the deeper metaphysical reasons I know, personally, stop acknowledging My Little Pony G5 because of Russia and Vladimir Putin. And then Chris adds this picture at the bottom, which I'll show in a second here, but it's like some Russian-drawn My Little Pony art. I don't know what the hell it's about, but to Chris it seems to be a sure fact that this is a sign that Russia and Vladimir Putin are the ones behind My Little Pony G5, and it's the cause of the world's downfall, basically. Again, this is just Chris being completely self-centered, and the reason I say that is because this is such a big thing to him, and he wants everybody else to agree that it's such a big deal, and he wants it to stop immediately. And because people aren't taking him serious, he's now trying to act like it is a harbinger of the most serious possible thing he can think of. While he was in jail, he was hearing all the time on the radio about the Ukrainian crisis going on with Russia and everything like that. And Chris, he heard about like that it was like the big talking point in the world, that Putin was the big evil. So what does that mean? Now Putin is an excuse to use whenever Chris has something bad going in his life. This guy is the reason behind it. And that's exactly what he's doing now, attributing this pony show to being part of Russian propaganda, just taking down everything in its path. This is something Chris says all the time, but it'll never be lost on me just how wacky it is. And just to think, he responded to a random person who was just asking the opinions of the pony community, and Chris had to drop all this nonsense on them. Chris sends out another tweet saying hashtag My Little Pony G5 is literally Russian propaganda, demons included, in disguise as a non-timeline canon series. In other words, if you do any art, acknowledge, or even love My Little Pony G5, you are supporting not only a further dysfunction of this very timeline, but you're supporting Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin. Like, could you imagine just being a poor kid drawing your favorite pony art and whatever, and you got this fucking loon online telling you, stop supporting Russia! Like, what are you doing? Like, those ponies, they're not the Equestria girls, they're the fucking Red Army in disguise. But again, he's just doing this because of how much he hates this show and trying to attribute it to, like, the worst possible things he can. And he'll go, like, into depth about this, too, because it's definitely something he thinks about. Like, he typed all these words out. This is something that, like, it weighs on him. It's something that he feels like he has enough passion about to speak out about, to try to get people behind his cause, not realizing that it's one of the most crazy things that anyone's ever said. We know, Hasbro. You can end this right now by completely shelving My Little Pony G5 and even Pony Life, like Coyote vs. Acme, and redeem yourselves by reinstating the original cast, staff, and hashtag Adobe Flash animation art of hashtag Friendship is Magic and hashtag Equestria Girls, along with my help personally, as I've stated before. Like, so hold up. Before, I thought it was he just wanted the show back. He didn't want the new My Pony season. He wanted the old My Little Pony season. But now, no, that's not good enough. Chris now needs to be on board as a cast member and or director. Like, he needs to make sure they do this right. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts about this. Chris needs to be signed to a contract where he will just sit there and point people in the direction of what he wants to see. Because, again, it's all about him. This is just like that's why he says I need to be involved, because it's basically, you know, I don't care if all like millions of people who like this shit, if they loved this new season, I don't. So we're going to make it what I want. And it's one of those things to me that it reminds me of another old Chris instance. I don't know if you guys ever saw The Call before, but it was where Chris was talking to like Sony or Microsoft, and he told them how they were going to go about signing Chris to a contract to make his video games for him. He said that he needed a $100,000 contract, and he needed to be able to work from home and when he wanted to. You know, like that little line about and when I want to, because again, it's all about him. When he wants stuff, he gets it. When he doesn't want stuff, it's not happening. And this pony season, it's not happening. And no matter what Hasbro does, Chris is going to fight tooth and nail and make up any crazy shit he can to try to get this stuff stopped. Divine timing is ticking away, and you can clearly see it happening in front of you, that G5 is going down with the modern day Babylon. Then in brackets he writes Russia, just to remind them. So I mean, what can you even make of this? It's just inane ramblings from another madman that we cover here on the channel, and it's never gonna get better. Chris will never realize the error of his ways. He'll never be able to dig himself out of this hole he's dug, and it's just a shit show constantly. And even when it's not like notable, there's still so much wacky stuff going on that you can just point it out and go, wow, like it's what a life that one Christian Weston Chandler lives. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in the coming days, because if you guys forgot, it is February 22nd when I am recording this, and February 24th is Christian Love Day. And if Flutter truly is Chris's girlfriend, then we could see them two meeting up possibly, and who knows, because every time them two are together, people take pictures, and it always seems like something that really gets under Chris's skin, and apparently it gets under Flutter's too. But the one thing I'll say is this: at first, I thought that this could be like a real indicator for if they're in a real relationship or not, because if they're not together on Valentine's Day, they're probably not really together. However, this is a long-distance relationship, it seems, as Chris is always seen at an airport, you know, when Flutter's around. You know, he's seen there, and then Flutter's around for a little bit, and then he's seen there again, and then Flutter's not around, so he probably just took her back to the airport. So, we'll have to see what happens on old Christian Love Day, but it'll be interesting to see. I think I'm thinking of it in the lens of it being Valentine's Day, and they definitely didn't see each other then, or else we probably would have heard about it. But yeah, Chris's birthday in 2 days, and we'll see if anything interesting happens. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get out of here, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. It's always a good one chilling with y'all, and I always thank yous for this awesome community we've built here. And yeah, until the next one, I'm out of here. Take care, you guys. Stay safe.